Here we go on our Orange and Brown Talk Roundtable. We are drafting the top 20 Browns players. We'll go 5 rounds here for each. Scott, you have the number 1 pick. Ashley has the number 2 pick. Mary Kay picks 3rd, and I pick 4th.
So anyways, number 1, I got Myles Garrett. I think he's the best at what he does compared to when you held him up against other people at his position, compared to how other Browns are at their position. They do have a few other guys who are very, very good and very, I think, highly ranked just at their position league wide. But I would put Myles Garrett number 1 as the Browns' best player right now.
That's who I would have had at the top of my board. I think I would have got Myles number 1. Ashley and Mary Kay, does Myles sound right here? I mean, is there a case for, would you have had someone else on top of your board? I know who else maybe we can make a case for.
You know what? I actually did have somebody else on the top of my board, but I'm not going to say who yet, because I have pick number 3 and I want to see how this goes. But I did not have Myles at the top of my board.
Well, Ashley, you have the number 2 pick. So why don't you kind of make your pick and explain kind of where you had Myles and why you picked the person number 2.
So for me, I had Myles number 2 as the top defensive player. And for me, like, I looked at it as kind of, you mentioned, Dan, how we all maybe have different criteria. Like, I was really weighing importance on this team very heavily. Obviously, I think Myles is a leader. He has all that X factor sort of stuff as well. He, as we talked about recently on podcasts, still has room to make a jump. But I'm going to take Joel Bitonio here. Obviously, the highest paid guard you talk about in the NFL. You talk about follow the money, Dan, to use your phrase. I think everything starts with an offensive line on this offense, and Joel Bitonio is the most important piece of that. I believe he ended up being, I have the PFF rankings here, he was your highest rated offensive player last year. And I do think, he's a Pro Bowl contender for years to come, and we've talked about potentially on that Hall of Fame path one day. So I'm going to stick with Bitonio at number 2 here.
I'm just jealous. I thought I was going to be able to grab Joel at number 4.
I had him second on my list, and there was I really thought about being first because, again, I kind of held him up against others at his position. Obviously, he's been really great, especially the last 2 years.
At number 3, I am taking Deshaun Watson, who I had number 1 on my list. If he had played last year, I think he would be a 4-time Pro Bowler instead of a 3-time Pro Bowler. I also factored in positional value, and there is no greater position on your football team than your quarterback. So I bumped him up higher than Myles for that reason, because if you don't have the quarterback, you pretty much don't have anything. So you guys know by now, I put an enormous premium on the quarterback position, and I think they finally got an elite quarterback. And I think he is going to be the most important player on the team, as well as the best player on the team.
See, I took positional value out of the equation for me. So I have a feeling my list is going to look a lot different than Mary Kay's list.
Yeah. I would have taken Deshaun number 3. Like, I had Bitonio, Deshaun, Myles as the top 3, and kind of just going with my gut here on where to take. But I do think there is something, I had a feeling where Mary Kay was going, knowing the positional value on quarterback. And we talk about how important a quarterback is when you're talking about the potential to win a Super Bowl.
I would have taken Watson 1 or 2. I would have either gone Garrett 1 or Watson 1, and then I would have taken the other 2. And at number 4, because I will not allow us to forget about this person, because it seems like every now and again we forget about him, and he's so good, and he just kind of shows up and does his job. I'm going to go Nick Chubb here at number 4. I had another option that I think, pretty chalky. I think a lot of people might expect here. I think Nick Chubb is the best runner in football. Is he the best running back, like all around? There's other guys that have that case. I think he's the best runner in the game. And I think last year with the injuries, and he only played 14 games. He still rushed for almost 1,300 yards, still scored 8 touchdowns, still showed that big play ability. We saw him stiff arming guys at the end of the year, just like the old Nick Chubb, got the extension. So I'm not going to let us forget about Nick Chubb. I'm not going to let this get to number 7 and have somebody be like, oh my God, we haven't taken Chubb yet. Okay, so we are up to pick 5, and that is Scott.
Yeah, so the top 4 guys, I think, should be the top 4 guys because of consistency. They've been good year in, year out, and now we're getting to a group that maybe have been really, really good, but haven't like sustained it as well. But I think at the top of that crowd, I would put Denzel Ward. I'll take him 5th here. He had another Pro Bowl season last year. We all think he's about to get paid. Made what we thought at the time maybe was the play of the year that was going to really turn things around and get the Browns to the playoffs with that 99-yard pick 6 against the Bengals. It seemed like he really started to play after that. He really started to play like the guy I think we had been waiting to see ever since his rookie year, really, like just consistency wise. So now you got to like stack that. You have to put another year on top of that to move into like that top 3 or 4 area on this kind of ranking. But for me, I think 5 is a good spot to put him.
All right, Ashley, you are up now at number 6.
So while we were sitting here talking about Denzel, I'm seriously was considering like, do I take another offensive lineman with this pick? But I'm not going to for the sake of conversation and because I think this is a premium position. So I'm going to take Amari Cooper here. And obviously we don't know what he looks like in this offense yet, but I do think he's one of the best route runners in the NFL. I think he has the potential to totally change how this offense looks, especially with Deshaun Watson. And we've talked time and time again about how important it is to have a true number 1 receiver. I think Amari brings that to the table. And like we said on the podcast earlier this week, like if he does well, he has the potential to have a Pro Bowl type of season. So I'm going to take Amari Cooper at number 6.
I am going with John Johnson III here. Going with John Johnson III. I actually think he has Pro Bowl ability. I think that it's such an important position. And I think he's going to, once they figure out a little bit more what to do with him, which they started to do at the end of last year, I think the lights started to come on for him. And I think he's going to have a breakout year in 2022.
So at number 8, there's a few guys that I really like here, but I'm going to go with one. And I'm just genuinely curious what you guys are going to think of this. Again, this is another guy that I just don't want to forget about because he's really good. And you could argue he was the best in his position group not last year, but the year before. And I'm going to take Jack Conklin at number 8. It was either Joel Bitonio or Jack Conklin was this team's best offensive lineman in 2020. 2021, a lot of injuries, obviously, that really awful injury in Baltimore. You know, Mary Kay, I know that you were told that he's supposed to be back and ready to go week 1. We'll start to get a better idea of where he's at coming up here in the next couple months when we get a chance to get eyeballs on this football team and kind of see what Jack is doing. But I think if he's on the field and he's healthy, he's either your best or your second best offensive lineman. And I think that group still as a whole, even with the change at center, is probably still your best unit, maybe your second best behind running back, whatever. They kind of go hand in hand. So I'm going to go Conklin here at number 8. All right, let's move on to round 3 here. It's going to start getting a little weird. Scott, you're up.
Wow. And by the way, I had JJ3 11th. I had the numbering wrong. I was going through that while Mary Kay was talking. But so I guess my number 7 guy is still hanging out there. I'm going to go with JOK. Again, I think potential factors into this a little bit. There was a point last season when he was one of the highest graded linebackers in the league. I think he was first for a while and then second for a few weeks. He finished 11th. He obviously Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are out there, but JOK, I think more than anybody on that defense is going to be a guy that it's built around because I'm pretty sure he's going to be someone who doesn't come off the field next season. He's going to be the guy out there, and whether there's 2 or 3 linebackers, and be expected to do a lot of different things. So, you know, and we heard over and over how they were just kind of like giving him a little bit at a time, didn't want to overload him. And so we only got a taste of JOK, but I think going forward, he's going to stand out as one of the best players on this defense. So he was my 7th pick. And what was he go now? 9th? Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Yes, we're at 9th. And Scott, you had to take him here because he was going in the next 2.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
I'm very,
he
Dan,
was
Dan
going
saw
one of
my
the next two
reaction.
picks. All right, Ashley, you're up.
I am going to jump to the defensive side of the ball as well, and I'm going to take the other 2021 rookie here, and I'm going to go with Greg Newsome. I thought he had a great rookie year. Obviously, I've made my feelings known on the cornerback position. I think it's a premium. And the one thing, especially that I find so interesting with him, is you talk about the division and you talk about the Bengals and how well he played against Jamar Chase in. We're eliminating the second game against the Bengals that obviously they rested Jamar Chase for most of the game and rested a lot of their starters in advance of the playoffs. But he really had a phenomenal game that was only midway through the season. I think like JOK, he's really going to be poised to take that second year jump just by virtue of having more experience. And I really like him opposite of Denzel. So I'm going to take him at number 10.